I always thought betrayal would come with a warning sign, a cold stare, a lie too tangled to hold, maybe a whiff of someone else's cologne on her scarf. But no, when it came, it was silent, polished, surgical. It started with a late email from HR. Please confirm your participation in the Leadership Summit next month. Strange, since I wasn't on the invite list. I wasn't even supposed to be in contention this quarter. My boss, Nathan, had made that clear. You're valuable, Greg, but it's not your quarter. Let's circle back next cycle. Polite corporate nothing speak. The kind you nod to while he steals your ideas and pins them to his own chest like war medals. But then I opened the attached schedule, and there it was. His name, bolded at the top of the speakers list. And just below that, a registered guest under the spousal accompaniment column. Laura Monroe. Laura, my wife. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. There had to be another Laura Monroe, right? Someone with the same name. But the photo attached shattered that illusion. A candid snapshot, probably taken from some social media post. Laura in the same navy wrap dress she wore last weekend. The one I bought her. The one she'd worn when she said she was visiting her sister in Portland. The next hour was a blur of searching. Her Instagram was private, but not his. Nathan wasn't the kind of man who believed rules applied to him. His feed was curated golf outings, scotch tastings, hotel rooftops. Then I found it. The photo that made my blood freeze. It wasn't overt. That was the brilliance of it. Just him, shirt unbuttoned one notch too low, seated on a balcony with a drink in hand. But off to the side, reflected in the mirrored surface of his sunglasses, was the unmistakable silhouette of Laura. Her hair, her posture, her smile. I stared at it like it was a crime scene photo. Because in a way it was. That night, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I sat across from her at dinner, watching as she laughed at a rerun of Friends, sipping red wine like she wasn't on the verge of detonating her life. I studied her, how she chewed, how she tucked her hair behind her ear, how her eyes didn't quite meet mine. All the things I'd taken for granted, now dissected like evidence in a case I never thought I'd have to build. Later, while she showered, I checked her suitcase. It was still half-packed. Not for Portland. Not even close. Lingerie I'd never seen. A cologne that didn't belong to me, tucked in the side pouch. Tom Ford. Nathan wore Tom Ford. I wanted to scream, but instead, I zipped the bag shut and left it exactly as I found it. She was careful, I'll give her that. No texts. No lipstick on collars. Just enough plausible deniability to make me seem paranoid if I questioned it. But I wasn't crazy. I was being played. By her. By Nathan. By the company I'd poured 12 years into. And they thought I'd never notice. They were wrong. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the edge of the bed, watching the rise and fall of her chest, wondering how long she'd been lying, wondering what part of me she'd silenced to pull this off without guilt, and wondering, most of all, how far I'd be willing to go to get it all back. By morning I knew. If they wanted war, they picked the wrong soldier. She kissed me that morning like nothing had changed. Lips soft, eyes unreadable. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the performance was so perfect it deserved an encore. She asked if I wanted anything from Trader Joe's. Said she'd be back by noon. I nodded, told her to grab those peanut butter pretzels I liked. She smiled. Then she walked out the door, probably to meet him. Nathan, my boss, the man who shook my hand just last week and thanked me for holding down the fort. I watched her drive away through the slit in the blinds, sipping the coffee she made me, and wondered how long she'd been slipping into his bed while slipping me decaf. I didn't follow her. Not yet. I'm not impulsive like that. The kind of men who break windows or scream at passing cars. That's not me. I'm patient. I listen more than I speak. People mistake that for weakness, but it's not. It's how I learn where to aim the knife when the time comes. First, I had to confirm what I already knew. I logged into her laptop while she was gone. She never bothered to change the password. Her digital fingerprint was cleaner than I expected. No messages, no photos. Not even a hint. Except one thing. A reservation at the Pendry Hotel. Thursday night. Room 517. Made under his name, paid with hers. A boutique hotel on the other side of town. Not Portland. Not anywhere near her sister's place. I checked the map. 5-star reviews. Rooftop bar. City view. Romantic as hell. I could almost see them there. Him ordering her a drink, her leaning in close, pretending to be charmed by his recycled charisma. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, then copied the reservation info onto a sticky note. I folded it and stuck it in my wallet, right behind our wedding photo. I left the laptop exactly as I found it. No need to tip my hand yet. That afternoon, I went to work like everything was normal. I shook hands. I answered emails. I smiled at Nathan when he passed by, his cologne trailing behind him like a signature. Tom Ford, Oud Wood, the same scent I found in her luggage. He gave me a wink. Big things ahead, Greg, he said. Keep your schedule open next month. I wanted to ask if that included my wife. But instead, I smiled and said, always do. I watched him closely after that. The way he lingered by his office door. The hush calls he took behind glass. The smugness carved into every movement. He'd gotten too comfortable. That was his mistake. They both had. She thought I'd never notice, and he thought I'd never fight back. But I was noticing everything. Like how she started dressing nicer on Thursdays. How she came home late smelling like hotel soap. How Nathan's car mysteriously vanished from the parking lot on the same afternoons she ran errands. Patterns. That's all betrayal, is when you strip away the emotion. Patterns you weren't meant to see. By Friday, I had a plan. It wasn't enough to catch them. I needed to make them implode. Quietly. Elegantly. Like pulling a single thread and watching the whole fabric unravel. I started with IT. There's always someone in IT who's underpaid and underappreciated. All it took was $200 and a story about recovering a lost deck for presentation. He gave me access to Nathan's work laptop. Said I had 24 hours before the breach would raise red flags. I thanked him and got to work. It was worse than I thought. Not just photos. Videos. One of them in the hotel room. Nathan's hand wrapped around her neck, her voice breathless. My wife. The woman who kissed me goodbye and made me coffee. I watched maybe 10 seconds before I paused it. Not because it hurt. Because I'd seen enough. That was the smoking gun. The match and the gasoline. Everything else from here was about timing. I downloaded everything. Labeled it Q4 budget review. Encrypted the files and sent a copy to my personal cloud, just in case. Then I stared at the screen for a long time, wondering how people could rot from the inside and still look beautiful on the surface. She came home later that night humming a song I didn't recognize. Dropped 2 bags on the counter and kissed my cheek. Trader Joe's. She even remembered the pretzels. I thanked her, smiled, and poured us both a glass of wine. I asked about her day. She lied beautifully. Said traffic was awful. Said her sister might visit next month. Said she was thinking of redecorating the bedroom. I nodded. Said that sounded nice. That I'd be working late next Thursday, so she might have the place to herself. She smiled. Oh, what for? I shrugged. Nathan wants me on the summit planning team, after all. And just like that, her smile twitched. The smallest crack. A blink and you miss it fracture in her perfect mask. I saw it. She knew, but she didn't say a word. Good. That meant she'd show up next Thursday, just like I wanted. They both would. And I'd be ready. The elevator doors hissed open with a polished chime. That sterile kind of luxury, sound meant to calm your nerves while you ascend into hell. The Pendry Hotel lobby smelled like lavender and leather, like expensive decisions and quiet affairs. I wasn't supposed to be here, not officially. But I wore a suit, carried myself like someone important, and no one asked questions. That's the trick with places like this. Confidence buys you more than a room key ever will. I arrived an hour before they were scheduled to check in. The clerk didn't recognize me, but the name Nathan Caldwell triggered the usual smile. He's a frequent guest, she said brightly. Would you like me to let him know someone's looking for him? I returned her smile, something hollow and well-practiced. No need. I'm setting up a surprise. I said it softly, conspiratorially. She blushed, nodded, handed me the spare room key I had prearranged the night before using my brother-in-law's credentials. Ex-cop. Owed me a favor. Room 517. Top floor. Balcony view. The perfect stage for an ending. I had everything in place before they arrived. Cameras hidden in the smoke detector and vent. One audio bug planted under the mattress, another behind the wall art. I checked each feed on my laptop from the adjoining suite. Room 519, booked under a shell name. The screen flickered with soft light as I tested the mics. Clean, crisp, every breath, every whisper. They'd have no idea. I debated confronting them face to face, screaming, slapping him, spitting words like bullets. But no, that wasn't justice. That was theater. And theater, as satisfying as it might feel, doesn't leave scars. Not the kind that matter. They arrived at 6:22 p.m. I watched them from the screen as if observing a pair of lab rats stumbling into the trap. Nathan in his tailored blazer, smug and laughing. Laura wearing the navy-wrapped dress again. Unaware, it had become her uniform of betrayal. She kissed him in the hallway before the door even closed. Desperate. Hungry. The way she hadn't touched me in months. He poured them wine from the minibar, and they toasted to finally being free. That's what he said. Free. As if I'd ever been the jailer. I sat there listening as they undressed each other with words and fingers. Listening as my wife whispered promises she once gave me. She told him she hated lying, that it hurt too much. She said she wished she'd left me sooner. Nathan told her it wouldn't be long before he pulled me off the team for good. That I was dead weight, holding back the department. He doesn't even suspect, she whispered into his neck. He still makes me coffee. They laughed. God, they laughed. The sound of it made my hands go still. Not shaking. Not anymore. Just still. Like a clock that stopped right before the hour it strikes. At exactly 7 p.m., I hit send. The files, every video, every transcript, every photo, were routed to 3 inboxes. First, Nathan's wife, Emily Caldwell. I'd met her twice. Once at a company gala, where she'd smiled politely while Laura gushed about Nathan's leadership. The second time was at a charity fundraiser, where she told me Laura and I were the picture of stability. I included a note. Your husband has been very busy. Thought you should know where your charity money's going. The second recipient, the board of directors. Not the public emails, their personal accounts, the ones they never expected to be exposed. I packaged the files under a formal complaint, masked in corporate language. Ethics violation. Misuse of company resources. Inappropriate use of expense accounts for personal travel. Everything neatly time-stamped, watermarked, indisputable. And the third? Laura. I sent it to her old Gmail account. The one she used before she met me. The one she probably thought I'd forgotten. The subject line was simple. You earned this. I closed the laptop and waited. It took 12 minutes. That's all. 12 minutes for the emails to detonate. I saw it first in Nathan's face. He pulled his phone from a nightstand, eyebrows tightening. He went pale, mouth slightly open, like a man realizing the rope he'd been tugging was wrapped around his own throat. Laura looked over his shoulder, confused, then horrified. She grabbed her phone too. That's when she saw hers. The videos. The photos. The forwarded resignation email Nathan's wife sent to the board. She stood there, naked and shaking, clutching the sheets like they could protect her from the truth clawing its way in. They started arguing. Loud. Nathan accusing her of tipping me off. Laura swearing she didn't know how I found out. He threatened to fire me. Said he'd ruin me. She told him she didn't care. She begged him to fix it. He told her she was a liability. A mistake. Said she was worth the risk until she opened her mouth. I watched her face change then. Something cracked. Something gave. The look she gave him, that was new. Not betrayal. Not heartbreak. But fear. Real, bone-deep fear. She realized in that moment that she wasn't just losing me. She was losing him too. And worse, he never planned to catch her. I shut the laptop. Let them eat each other alive in that room. I didn't need to watch anymore. The avalanche had already started. I left the hotel through the service exit. No fanfare. No final monologue. The night air hit my face like absolution. I didn't feel joy or even relief. Just something quieter. Emptier. Like a wound that had finally stopped bleeding but still ached when touched. Tomorrow would be chaos. HR calls. Pressured statements. Laura showing up at home with tears and excuses and 100 ways to say she didn't mean it. But none of that mattered now. The story had changed, and I was no longer the one being betrayed. I was the one pulling the strings. .by morning, the silence had weight. Not the kind you hear, the kind you feel in your teeth. the kind that hums beneath your skin, waiting for something to crack. I woke up before the sun, sat on the edge of the bed, and listened to the house breathe. Laura hadn't come home. Not surprising. Last night, she'd been busy watching her world collapse from a hotel bed she didn't pay for. I poured a cup of coffee, black, no sugar, the way she used to pretend she liked it when we were still trying to impress each other. I checked my phone. 32 missed calls. 11 from her. 9 for Nathan. 2 from my company's HR department. The rest from unknown numbers I didn't bother with. No voicemails. Just the quiet desperation of people who thought maybe, if they dialed enough times, the truth might hang up first. I didn't answer. I already knew what they'd say. I was more interested in watching them say it to each other. The news broke at 9:12 a.m. Not CNN or anything national. Just a quiet corporate memo leaked onto an industry forum. Senior executive placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. The words were sanitized, neutral, but anyone who mattered knew exactly who it was about. The comment section lit up like dry timber. Half the people were shocked. The other half weren't shocked at all. Office gossip has a way of aging fast behind closed doors. At 9:30, Laura walked through the front door like she still lived here. She wore the same coat from the night before, lipstick smudged, eyes wild. Not mascara-streaked, dramatic like in the movies. Just wide, unfocused, as if the oxygen was thinner on this side of her lie. She didn't speak at first. Just stood there, bag still over her shoulder, waiting for me to yell. But I didn't. I just took a slow sip of coffee and watched her squirm. "You saw it," she said finally, voice hoarse. I nodded once. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she added. I laughed. A small, dry thing with no humor in it. What was it supposed to be, Laura? A soft landing? She looked like she might cry. Not for me. For her. For the version of herself that was just annihilated. I panicked, she whispered. "Nathan." He said it was under control. He said he'd. I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "You don't get to talk about Nathan in this house." She flinched. "Good. I want to explain." She tried again, stepping forward. "No," I said, standing. "You want to justify." Not the same thing. She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked around like she was seeing the house for the first time. The photos. The chair she bought. The rug she always said clashed with the drapes, but kept anyway. The life she dismantled piece by piece while I poured her wine and made her laugh. "I was unhappy," she said, as if that was some holy invocation that forgave everything. "So you burned the place down." "I didn't mean to hurt you." I took a step forward. She didn't move. "But you did," I said quietly, deliberately, repeatedly. "You chose to hurt me, over and over again. The only thing you didn't choose was getting caught." That finally broke her. The tears came, slow at first, then fast. She tried to reach for my hand, and I stepped back like her touch would rot me from the inside. "I have nowhere to go," she said. "Nathan's wife froze their accounts. His company's cutting him loose. He's not picking up." I stared at her, not blinking. "He never planned to pick you up, Laura. You were just the suitcase he didn't feel like carrying anymore." Her face crumpled, and I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But that feeling passed quickly. "You need to leave," I said. "Where?" she asked. "I don't care. I'm still your wife." "No," I said, walking past her toward the stairs. "You're just someone I used to make coffee for." I left her standing there in the foyer, shaking, crying, wrecked. Let her sit in the wreckage. Let her breathe it in. I went upstairs, shut the door, and let the walls finally exhale. Later that day, HR called again. This time I picked up. A voice too calm told me I was being brought in for a formal statement. "We're treating you as a whistleblower, Greg," they said. "But this is delicate. There are legal implications." I agreed. Told them I'd be in Monday. That I had documentation that I hadn't leaked to the press yet. That I expected discretion and immunity. The line went quiet for a moment before the voice said, "You're playing this smart." I hung up. Smart. Maybe. Cold. Definitely. Necessary. Without question. I didn't just want to win. I wanted them both to know I watched them lose. And Monday, that was just the beginning. She started showing up in places she didn't belong. First, it was the grocery store, 2 aisles over while I stood staring at a wall of cereal boxes, trying to decide if I even liked breakfast anymore. I felt her before I saw her, that static in the air that only comes when someone you used to love is hovering too close. She pretended it was coincidence, said she was just grabbing something, even though her basket was empty. I walked past without a word. The next time it was the gym. My gym, the one she used to call a sweat prison. She showed up in brand new leggings and a forced ponytail, pretending to stretch by the window. I ignored her then too, but I could feel her eyes on me the whole hour. Like if she stared hard enough, I'd forget what she did and just walk over, towel in hand, and pretend none of it mattered. But it did. It mattered like hell. On the third attempt, she caught me coming out of the bank. She stepped in front of me like a bad memory, trying to block traffic. "We need to talk," she said, breath sharp from nerves. "Not here," I muttered, brushing past. "Then where?" she asked, following. "Greg, you can't keep freezing me out like this." I turned then, full stop, eyes on hers. "I'm not freezing you out. I'm watching you spiral and keeping the door locked." Her mouth moved, but no words came. Finally, she said, "Nathan's been talking to lawyers." "Good," I replied. "So have I." That shut her up for a second. "I didn't sign anything yet," she added quickly. "I thought maybe we could." "We can't," I snapped. "There's no we. There's just me, clawing back the pieces of my life you try to pawn off for hotel sheets and elevator quickies." She looked like she wanted to slap me then. Not because I was wrong, but because I was right. She was unraveling, and I was watching. No helping hand. No rope. Just watching. She called that night. Left a voicemail, slurred and teary. Said she missed the way I used to make her laugh. Said she couldn't sleep. Said she didn't feel safe. I didn't respond. I saved the message, though. Added it to the folder. You never know when you'll need documentation of someone self-destructing in real time. Meanwhile, Nathan was bleeding publicly. The board forced a formal investigation. Internal audits were underway. His wife filed for divorce 3 days after the footage went viral. That wasn't me, by the way. I didn't leak the videos. But someone did. Someone with access. Someone angry. Maybe his wife. Maybe someone in HR. Maybe even Laura in a final act of revenge after realizing he'd blocked her number and deleted every trace of her from his life. Whatever the source, it spread like a virus. Screenshots hit Reddit. Video clips ended up in private group chats. One frame even made into a meme. Corporate scandal Barbie, they called her. Nathan was suspended indefinitely. His parking spot reassigned. His name removed from the office directory like he'd never existed. And me? I got promoted. Not immediately. Not officially. But the shift happened. People nodded when I walked by. Invitations started appearing in my inbox. Strategy meetings. Budget approvals. Places where the real conversations happened. It wasn't pity. It was power redistribution. They saw I'd played it smart. Quietly. Efficiently. Like a surgeon removing cancer without spilling a drop. Laura texted the night I got the offer. Just one line. "Is this what you wanted?" I didn't reply. But the answer was yes. Not just this. All of it. Her gone. Him ruined. My life. No longer tethered to liars and takers. But there was still one thing left to do. A final cut. I filed for divorce that Friday. My lawyer delivered the papers to her in person, at the cafe she used to love. She called me less than a minute later. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "You said you wouldn't make this ugly," she said, voice low and shaking. "I didn't," I whispered to myself. "You did." I moved out a week later. Took what was mine. Left what wasn't. The bed. The dishes. The curtains she picked out with his hands, probably already on her waist. I didn't want any of it. I got a place downtown. Small, modern, clean. No echoes. No ghosts. The silence was different there. Not heavy. Just quiet. Peaceful. Like the air had been scrubbed of lies. People say betrayal changes you. They're wrong. It reveals you. It burns away the parts of you that were too soft, too trusting, too willing to excuse what should have been condemned. What's left? That's the real you. And I finally liked the man I saw in the mirror. The first sign came in the form of a letter. Not a call. Not a text. Not a pathetic voicemail choking on regret. A crisp white envelope slid under my apartment door like a threat dressed in business attire. No return address. Just my name in her handwriting. The same cursive she once used on birthday cards and thank you notes. now wrapped around something colder. I didn't open it right away. I poured a drink, turned on some Miles Davis, and sat with it on the coffee table like it was ticking. When I finally did tear it open, I half expected poison. What I found instead was worse. A subpoena. Divorce wasn't enough for her. She was contesting the settlement, claiming emotional distress, claiming she was coerced, that she had been manipulated by a superior, Nathan, and that I, her husband, had created a hostile environment at home by not supporting her. She'd flipped the entire narrative, made herself the victim, said the affair was a symptom of my neglect, that she feared retaliation, that she had documented proof of emotional abuse. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that bounced off the apartment walls. She wasn't just trying to save face. She was trying to erase mine. I called my lawyer. He was already ahead of it. Said the new angle didn't hold much water, but we needed to take it seriously. She's not trying to win, he said. She's trying to drag you down with her. If she can't have stability, she'll settle for scorched earth. I asked what our move was. He told me to sit tight and let him handle it. But I couldn't just sit. Sitting felt like surrender. So I got to work. Remember that voicemail she left? The one where she said she missed how I made her laugh? I had 7 more like it. Some angry, some sad. One of them, she was drunk and told me she'd do anything to fix this. Begged me to take her back. Said she didn't even love Nathan. She just liked how he made her feel seen. All time-stamped. All saved. My lawyer said it was gold. But I had something better. A flash drive. Hidden in a drawer, backed up twice. Footage from the hotel. Their conversations. Her voice, crystal clear, mocking my trust. Telling Nathan how I was too naive to question anything. Saying she deserved more than a husband who played it safe. I hadn't released it before. I thought exposure was enough. But now that she was trying to rewrite the story, I decided it was time for a new author. We filed a countersuit. Libel. Defamation. Emotional damages. We attached every voicemail, every photo, every screenshot from the security footage she didn't know I'd acquired. And then I made one final move. A private email. Not public. Not viral. Just one message sent to the last address I had for Nathan's wife. I told her the full story. How Laura was trying to spin it now. How she was dragging both of us into her spiral. I included the audio. Told her she could use it however she wanted. No signature. No reply expected. But 3 days later, I heard from my lawyer that Laura's legal team was reevaluating their strategy. Translation. The rope she was swinging had started to wrap around her own neck. She showed up one last time, unannounced. No makeup, no armor. Just Laura, raw and desperate. She stood outside my apartment, door knocking like she had a right to be let in. I didn't move, just watched through the peephole as she whispered to herself and tapped her foot and eventually sank to the floor. She stayed there for 13 minutes, long enough to cry, not long enough to freeze. Then she left. No note, no knock, just silence. The next morning, my lawyer forwarded a document. Laura had dropped the claim. The divorce was moving forward uncontested. No payout, no alimony, no press. She'd vanished from the boardroom battlefield like a ghost who realized it was never welcome. I didn't feel victorious. Not exactly. Just empty in a way that felt clean, like something had been scrubbed out of me, like a wound that finally stopped itching. I poured myself another drink, sat on the balcony, and watched the city blink awake. She tried to kill what was left of me, but all she really did was show me how much was still alive. That IT started with a knock. Not frantic, not threatening. Just a steady 3-tap rhythm that said whoever was on the other side wasn't in a rush. I wasn't expecting anyone. My circles had grown small since the fallout by design. I liked it that way. Peace is a delicate thing. You don't let just anyone in. I checked the peephole and felt my stomach jolt. Emily Caldwell, Nathan's wife, or ex-wife, by now, depending on the speed of her attorneys. She looked composed, too composed, dressed in a charcoal coat that matched her expression, no makeup, no visible emotion. I opened the door just enough to speak. Didn't expect to see you. I didn't expect to come, she said. Can we talk? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked in like she already knew the layout, like she'd been here before in another life. One where our spouses hadn't detonated our worlds with matching infidelity. She sat on the edge of the couch, upright, hands folded. I didn't offer coffee. This didn't feel like that kind of visit. "How'd you find me?" I asked. "Laura," she said, her lips curling slightly. "She sent me an email last week. Claimed you were harassing her. Said she was scared." I blinked. "Scared?" Emily nodded. "And yet here I am. Alone. In your apartment." Strange choice if I believed her. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "So what do you want?" She reached into her coat and pulled out a folder. Plain. Unmarked. "This is everything Nathan didn't want anyone to see. Financial records. Off-book accounts. Names. He thought deleting it made it disappear. He forgot who helped him set all up." She handed it to me. Heavy. Dense with the kind of truth that could collapse careers. "Why are you giving this to me?" I asked. Her eyes met mine, and for a second I saw it. Not pain. Not revenge. Clarity. Because you're the only one who understands what it's like to burn and still walk out upright. And because I want this chapter closed. Not just for me. For everyone he ever stepped on. I opened the folder and scanned the first few pages. Offshore transfers. Shell corporations. Expense fraud that made our little scandal look like a soap bubble. This wasn't just corporate misconduct. It was criminal. "You could have gone to the press," I said. She shrugged. "I still might. But first, I wanted him to know I gave it to you. Because that'll hurt more." I smiled then. Not out of joy. Out of recognition. She wasn't like Laura. She wasn't looking to be saved. She'd already done that part. She stood and buttoned her coat. "Do what you want with it," she said, walking to the door. "Just make sure it ends with silence." She left without looking back. I sat there for hours flipping through the files. The more I read, the more I saw the full architecture of Nathan's arrogance. He wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was laundering money through fake conferences, charging vacations as strategic retreats, using interns as personal assistants, firing people who got too curious. And now I held it all. The blade. The blueprint. The leverage. I didn't sleep that night. I ran scenarios in my head. Take it to the board? Sure, they'd listen. But they'd also close ranks, hide what they could, sacrifice Nathan as a scapegoat, and seal the vault. Go to the media? It'd make a splash. Headlines for a week. Then what? He'd vanish, rebrand, resurface somewhere else. Men like him always do. No, I wanted permanence. The next morning, I made one call. Not to HR, not to the press. To an old friend. FBI field analyst, Financial Crimes Division. We hadn't spoken in years, but he owed me. Save his ass once back in college when he nearly got expelled for a bad roommate's coke habit. I told him I had something he needed to see. He told me to meet him that afternoon. I handed over the folder in a parking garage. No words beyond what was necessary. Just a nod, a firm handshake, and then he drove away with the evidence. By nightfall, I was back on the balcony. Same scotch, same view, but something was different. Something was ending. My phone buzzed once. A single message. No name, just a number I didn't recognize. It said, "You just made a lot of powerful enemies." I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. Powerful enemies don't scare me. I've already survived something worse. Her. The FBI raid happened quietly. No sirens, no media vans, no spectacle. Just clean suits and black Suburbans rolling into Nathan's neighborhood like the slow, steady beat of a death march. I didn't watch it live, but a clip surfaced later. Nathan in handcuffs, head down, being led out of his house in gym shorts and a wrinkled tee. The caption read, "Tech executive arrested in federal fraud investigation." His face was everywhere. LinkedIn scrubbed. Company website gone. Investors scrambling like rats from a burning yacht. It was almost too clean, like the world had been waiting for someone to finally call his bluff. Laura reached out that same night. Not a call this time. A letter. Actual ink, actual paper. She slid it under my door again like she still believed she had the right to leave fingerprints on my life. I let it sit there for a while. Hours. Maybe more. I thought about never opening it. But eventually, curiosity won. I unfolded it slowly, half expecting it to burst into flames. It wasn't what I thought it'd be. No pleas. No threats. Just a few shaky lines. I saw the news. I know that was you. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I was wrong about you. About everything. I thought you'd break. I thought you'd walk away like a victim. But you didn't. You built something sharper, stronger. I'm sorry I didn't see that man before I destroyed the one I had. No signature, just the weight of guilt try to put itself in an envelope and make its way back into my home. I didn't reply. She wasn't wrong. I had built something, but it wasn't out of strength. Not entirely. It was out of necessity, out of the kind of rage that carves your name into steel just to make sure the fire doesn't forget you. And Emily? She vanished. Not literally, just from the noise. She'd done her part and disappeared like smoke from a match that did its job. I heard she moved to Boston, took her maiden name back, started fresh. Good. She earned it. She burned her bridge without looking back, and that's how you're supposed to do it. My company held a quiet meeting, offered me the role Nathan once dangled in front of me like a carrot for good behavior. I declined, not because I didn't want it, because I didn't want them. That office was a monument to hypocrisy, and I'd already buried too many pieces of myself to sit under fluorescent lights and pretend it hadn't happened. Instead, I started my own thing. Small, sharp, mine. Took 3 of the brightest minds from the old office, people Nathan had ignored, and gave them real skin in the game. We didn't make press releases. We didn't post on LinkedIn. We got to work. Quiet, focused, and relentless. Like wolves no longer interested in the spotlight, only the hunt. People ask if I forgave her. If I forgave him, I don't bother answering. Forgiveness implies they left a wound that needed closing. But the truth is, they carved out something that didn't belong anymore. They exposed the rot. And once it was gone, all that was left was space. Clean. Empty. Mine to fill. Some nights, when the city's asleep and the lights across the street flicker just right, I think about the man I was a year ago. The man who believed in things like loyalty and late-night apologies. He's gone now. Buried under hotel receipts, USB drives, and courtroom transcripts. But the man who replaced him? He doesn't ask questions anymore. He just builds. He just walks forward. And if the fire comes again, he'll already be standing in the ashes.